Episode number 878, Failing to Follow Through.
You're listening to the official BNI podcast with BNI founder and Chief Visionary Officer, Dr. Ivan Misner. Stay tuned for networking and referral marketing tips from the man who's been called the father of modern networking, along with suggestions and insights into getting the most from your membership in the world's largest networking organization, BNI.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the official BNI podcast. I'm Priscilla Rice, and I'm coming to you from Live Oak Recording Studio in Berkeley, California, and I'm joined on the phone today by the founder and the Chief Visionary Officer of BNI, Dr. Ivan Misner. Hello, Ivan. How are you, and where are you?
I am happy to say I'm at my home in Austin. It's one of the first times in many years that I've been home for 6 weeks in a row, or I will be home for 6 weeks in a row. So,
Oh, that sounds nice.
Working from home.
Uh-huh.
So today's topic is about failing to follow through, and it's really involves a story, which I'll get to pretty quickly. But let me start by saying that I really think that successful business people know the importance of networking and how it can be a huge opportunity to gain referrals. However, one of the biggest mistakes that people can make is failing to follow through. And this story that I'm going to share with you today came from one of my employees several years ago. And I think it serves as an important lesson to all of us on how networking without follow through is nothing more than a waste of time. So this situation I'm going to describe happened before she came to work for BNI. And for the record, the names in this story have been changed to protect the innocent and the guilty both. So here's the story. My employee, who I'll call Winnie, needed the services of a graphic designer to assist her with the creation of a website for her father's business. And she attended a local networking mixer before she was employed by BNI. It was another, organization. It was a local chamber event that she went to. And she met a gentleman by the name of Blake. That's the guilty, and so the name has been changed. A graphic designer who seemed excited about the project and claimed that he could accomplish exactly what she needed at a very reasonable price. And so they talked and exchanged contact information, and they connected the next week by phone to discuss the project in more detail. And Winnie was pleased with Blake's ideas and liked the examples that she'd seen of his work. And she told him he seemed like the perfect person to help her with the project, and she'd like him to send her a price quote as soon as possible. So a week passed, and Winnie heard nothing from Blake. And when she called him to ask about it, he said he was working on a quote and gave her what sounded to me like a lame excuse about being busy, which, have you ever met anyone, Priscilla, who hasn't said, "Oh, I'm really busy"? Everybody says they're busy. Well, that's not an excuse to not follow up, especially for business. So another week went by, and again, nothing from Blake. And while Winnie was frustrated, she was willing to give Blake another chance because she did like his work and the conversation. So she sent him an email and left him a voicemail saying that she would love to give him her business and was anxious to hear back from him. Well, after 2 weeks had gone by without any response, Winnie found another designer. And to this day, as far as I know, Blake never responded to her. And yet, here's what blows my mind. I know for a fact, I know this person. I know for a fact this guy was still going to local networking mixers, which cost him money and time to attend. And he was trying to drum up more business. Yet when he had money practically sitting on the table in front of him, he failed to follow through. No matter what his reason was for not getting back to Winnie, being too busy, too lazy, my words, not his, or whatever else, he shouldn't be out there networking if he can't follow through on what he claims to be able to deliver. He's just wasting his time and money. And more important, he's wasting other people's time, which is only earning him a bad name and a bad reputation. And, I'll be honest, I don't see a lot of BNI members who do this, but I have run into BNI members who've gotten a referral and and failed to follow up on the referral. And when that happens, if that happens to you as a BNI member and somebody fails to follow up, you got to talk to that member immediately about following up, because when you give a referral, you give a little bit of your reputation away. And if you give a good referral, it enhances your reputation. You give a bad referral, it hurts your reputation. I just gave a referral to a good friend of mine. And I reached out to the director, asked for a member who was a contractor, got a name, reached out to the contractor directly. Within 30 minutes, he reached out to me. I made an introduction. Within 2 hours, he was at the woman's house to talk to her about what she needed to have done. She texted me back and said, "Wow, what a great organization this is." She said, "I've known about you and BNI for many, many years, but to see it in action is incredible." That's what should be happening when you get a referral. You should be reaching out to the person, and that person should be responding immediately. And when they respond immediately, it enhances your reputation. When you give a good referral and that person follows up, it enhances your reputation. And if you give a bad referral, it hurts your reputation. So to me, I wonder, who spends countless hours networking, hoping to fail and see zero results from their efforts? No one, right? I mean, nobody wants that. So I find it astounding that people single-handedly sabotage their success. They guarantee their own failure by failing to follow up with the contacts that they make. So if you don't plan on following up, don't plan on showing up, don't join BNI. Mm-hmm. If you're not going to follow up, don't join. Don't show up. The moral of this story is, if you aren't prepared to follow through, networking is a complete waste of your time and other people's time. If you have a Blake, I call it Blake the Flake story. If you have a Blake the Flake story of your own, I'd love to hear about your experience. If it's about BNI, don't throw BNI under the bus, but feel free to share your Blake the Flake story in the comments section here on BNI Podcast. Also, in terms of follow-up, and I'd love your feedback here in a moment, Priscilla. In terms of follow-up, I recommend episode number 623, episode 623. It is the 24/7/30 follow-up system. It's a classic broadcast of an original podcast, 24/7/30. And it talks about following up. What it doesn't talk about is giving that bid, giving your quote. But that, to me, I didn't include it in the follow-up because it just seemed so obvious. If you get the yes, I want a quote from you, that you actually give them a quote. And you know what? If you feel like it's not a good fit, then tell the potential customer, I don't think it's a good fit for these reasons. But don't leave them hanging thinking that you just forgot them. That's the worst scenario. And that's where the Blake the Flake phrase came from for me. What are your thoughts, Priscilla?
Well, exactly what you said. The thing that hit me is there must have been a reason why he did not follow through. And maybe it was just an intuition on his part that this wasn't going to work out with this person, that there was something about her that bothered him, and he just wasn't able to say it. He wasn't able to be honest.
But I've also met people that just kind of screwed up. Uh-huh. They get so busy being busy that they don't do the hard work necessary to close the deals.
Yeah.
I've experienced that. And knowing this guy, because I did know who he was, I think he was the latter. Because he kept going out there. He was constantly looking for business. But when it came down to, putting together the quotes, he wasn't doing it, which made no sense to me. That's why, I know another person who was great at getting business, but really bad at doing quotes. And so he brought in a business associate, not a partner, not an owner, but a business associate who actually put together the quotes, which he would review and approve and then send out. Yeah. And he did great because he was the rainmaker. He brought in the business, but he let somebody else do the quote. And of course, he had a crew that did the work that he helped to oversee. But look, what you're saying could be right, but what I know of this person, I think he was just busy being busy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah.
What you said, it really does reflect back on the person who gave the referral.
Yeah. Yeah. In this case, she met him personally, but for us in BNI, it
Yeah,
reflects on us when
I
we do
know.
that kind of referral.
Exactly.
Yeah. And look, let's say you're right and he just didn't think it was a good fit. Then he had an obligation to say to her, I don't think it's a good fit for this reason. Maybe I think maybe he could even say I underpriced what I thought this would cost. And then it would give her the choice of saying, okay, what do you think it would cost? Or he could say, I don't think it's a good fit because, I'm not sure I could really help this particular business, or whatever the reason was.
Yeah.
He had an obligation to get back to the person. For many, many years, I don't handle complaints anymore. So you guys, if you got a problem with your local director, don't email me because I'm just going to forward it over to the national director or executive director. But for many, many years, I would, problems that were going on in the region, I'd get contacted. And as you know, Priscilla, I travel a lot, and I never, ever waited a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks to respond, at least not on purpose, ever. I almost always responded within 24 hours, 48 hours at the most. And I'd respond and say, hey, look, I'm traveling. Even though they got an auto reply, I'd give a personal message. I'm traveling. I won't be in town for a week, 2 weeks. I will get back to you as soon as I am back in town. So at least people know what's going on and why there's a delay. At the very least, she deserved that. Well, I think we're out of time, Priscilla. If you have any last thought, feel free to share it. Otherwise,
oh no,
that's it.
That's it. Okay, thank you so much for the great information. This podcast is sponsored by MeisnerAudioPrograms.com. These audio programs will provide you with the tools and the inspiration to powerfully enhance your BNI experience. So check out the great material that's available to you at MeisnerAudioPrograms.com. And then use the promo code IVAN50 for 50% off of everything. All of the proceeds go to the BNI Foundation. Thank you so much for listening. This is Priscilla Rice, and we look forward to having you join us again next week for another exciting episode of the official BNI podcast.